Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show, the ARI podcast, where you get all your adventure racing up to date information.
In this episode, we are back with Team Maybe I Like the Misery for part two of our chat, following their incredible adventure at the Adventure Racing World Championships, which were held in Canada. If you haven't listened to part one yet, make sure you check that out in the podcast. I suppose what was next after that, Paul? Obviously, you got out at that section once you eventually saw the light. I know you mentioned you went up to the mountains. How were you with your maps at that stage? Were you happy enough with how you had marked up the map so far?
Yeah, no, at first the maps and the nav in the main went really well for the whole thing. A couple of very, very small blips, but fixed relatively quickly. There was no major kind of disaster. Well, there might have been one on the orienteering, but that wasn't even necessarily to do with marking the map. It was I don't know what happened there, but yeah, no, in fairness, the maps and the nav and Jer was helping as well with the nav, and it's great to have sort of someone else um
To
as
bounce off.
backup and someone else like watching, yeah, 100%. It is hard when you're kind of going the whole time, and you don't get much of a break. But yeah, no, I think like even coming off the lake, you had a couple of kind of things to watch out for. It was a lake, but it kind of zigzagged a little, kind of round. You were kind of constantly seemed to be going round little bends, almost like a canyon, but it wasn't really a canyon, but
Yeah.
there was all these mountains kind of coming into the lake. So you were constantly kind of going around these, at times you were looking and you kind of looking at the map and you're looking at the mountains, you're kind of, I think we're about here, but it didn't really matter where you were, because you knew you were heading down to the end of the lake. And at the end of the lake, there was a dam for starters. So and there was like kind of a thing across to stop you kind of going into the dam. And there was electricity kind of pylons going across as well before it. So they were kind of what we were looking out for. So you kind of knew, look, if we keep heading this direction, we come to the end of the lake eventually,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was relatively actually the nav for the main part for the event actually wasn't too bad. There was a couple of later on kind of bushwhacking where there was absolutely no paths or anything like that, and even they went pretty well. Um, but yeah, there was some areas where you were in forest and stuff like that, and there'd be maybe new paths that weren't on the map, or paths that were on the map that weren't on the ground, kind of thing.
I think that was very noticeable. I think towards the latter end of the race, a couple of the top teams were actually looking for roads that weren't actually there, and you could see them moving up and down. So yeah, there was definitely, and that's obvious with most races
You
anyway.
get it with most races, yeah. I mean, you're never going to get a map that's 100%. Particularly once you get into sort of areas where there's forest. The forests were massive,
Yeah,
insane the size. I mean, we spent a whole day going through this forest, literally up a fire road, kind of like a quilcha path,
yeah,
in one of these roads that put in to kind of cut the trees down and plant them and whatever. And it just huge, insane the
yeah,
size of it, And of course, as they're doing work in the forest, they build new paths and, they maybe knock down trees in one area. And then as well, I suppose, the weather as well, it is, in the winter and stuff like that. So, you bridges that were washed away and stuff like that in some areas, um, but yeah, in the main, I think it was okay, following the maps.
it went good. It went good. I suppose just looking overall during the race, there was a couple of dark zones. I suppose would we come to you, Dennis, just in relation to those? I like. I know in a lot of races, even there in Raid Visky, there was some dark zones as well this year. And I suppose they do stop the race. How did they affect you, or even talking to other racers? How was the dark zone?
Yeah, the dark zone were definitely not a good feature of the race. I think there were 3 paddle dark zones, and because it's 12 hours of darkness, if you arrive in 5 minutes late, you're sitting on your hands for 12 hours. We met one team in a chipper that had started the race 3 times, they said themselves. First time at the start, and then 2 more times, once after sitting in a hotel for 15 hours because of the dark zone. Ourselves, we were a bit unlucky. Probably didn't affect us overall, but at the end of the paddle, so we had a paddle portage over the mountain, then paddle. We got into a transition and we were 12 hours ahead of the cutoff. But because of a landslide, they had moved the cutoff forward by 14 hours. So we were short coursed at that point, along with a bunch of other teams, which we were disappointed with at the time. But in hindsight, we still got probably 750 of the 800 kilometers done. And we would have had to drop some points anyway along the way. But it was a bit unusual for them to change. There's cutoffs all the way along, and we were 12 hours ahead of the cutoff. We thought we were just cruising at the correct pace, and we found ourselves on short course, which you're on short course, but then we had a 110-kilometer bike to get around the sections we weren't allowed to do. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, but it was fine. We had a big long road and river bike that night, and we got back on track.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose, look, they have to put them in, and that was probably just unfortunate because it was a landslide. So it must have been impassable.
Yeah, they possibly knew about it a couple of weeks beforehand. It might have been they just ran out of trucks to get gear forward, possibly, and had to give up on at some point. But listen, we raced hard for 8.5 days, so we did as much as we could. I don't think we would have done much more.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose just looking overall, maybe either Ger or Richard, in terms of hospitality there, I know in a lot of these races, you come across and you're looking for food or something like that. How was the hospitality? I would like to think it was absolutely amazing in Canada, but how was it for you? How did you find it?
Do you want to go with this, Ger?
Yeah. The first nice guy we came across was in Boston Bar. After sitting for 15 minutes at the railway lines, waiting for like a 200 to 300 carriage train to pass by, and eventually we got across and we spotted some lights on in a place.
Ger, you're passing over your 15-minute conversation with an out-and-out Trump supporter. maybe we'll leave enough said at that.
The pre
I know it's a team event, but I know it's a team event, but let's just say the 3 of us just stood back and said, "Ger, you're on your own."
Yeah.
I asked the wrong person. Did he know where there was coffee? Anyway, we did find, after we got across the railway lines, we did spot this place. So we went in, and your man was closed, and he was shutting down his kitchen and cleaning up everything. So we said to him, "Well, is there anything you could do? Is there any kind of food we can do?" And he goes, "Yeah, okay." He said, "Look, you can have anything you want on the menu except maybe these 3 items," because it just meant making a big mess in his kitchen to do these 3. So, but he agreed to open up his kitchen and continue serving us. So fair play to him. He stayed on an extra couple of hours. He should have been out there at 10:30, and I think we were there till about midnight.
There was a nice adventure racing. Sorry, go ahead, Ger.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was only 3 weeks in the country. He just purchased the premises with his father, and he was a really nice guy. He looked after us well. And then I think the next place that we came across some nice hospitality was it at Tullamarine General Store. So we were a bit late leaving the transition, and I said, guys, we're not going to make this store in time. We're going to miss out on coffee here. So we said, Grant, sure, look, we'll see what we can do. So we kept going, but yeah, obviously we missed we were about an hour and a half after closing time. So there was a checkpoint right outside there, the general store. So we got the checkpoint anyway, and it was time to change maps. So we were changing maps and stopped to grab a bar or a bite of something to eat from our packs. And then I was grabbing the rubbish to go back to the rubbish bin with it up by the back door. And a couple walked out, and the lady looked at me and she recognized the race bibs, and she said, "Oh, did you want something?" And I said, "Well," I said, "we were kind of hoping we might get coffee somewhere, but I said, yeah, I see you guys are closed. Is there any place else like in the town that we might get coffee?" And she goes, "Hang on." So she disappeared back inside, and her husband just looked at us and he goes, "Not a hope in hell, guys, not a chance. This is not going to happen. That they have had a hectic day today. Sorry, but it's just not going to happen." The next thing, she came back out the door with the owner, and the owner looked at us and she said, "What were you looking for?" And I said, "Well, a coffee would be nice." And she said, "Oh, come on, come on." So your man was looking dumbfounded.
Yeah.
So she brought us in, and they just happened to still be there because they'd had such a hard day after they finished cleaning up. They had all sat down to have a drink, a sociable drink before they went home. So
Yeah.
they brought us in, and one of the girls got the coffee pot going, and then the owner said, "Okay," she said, "well, would you like something to eat?" And I said, "Look, we said we're quite happy with coffee, but she said, well, you can do sandwiches or something." I said, well, yeah, sandwiches would be nice. So the two boys, Dennis and Richard, went out just to move the bikes and bring them around the back a little bit. And then she had a lovely dog there, so we had been playing with the dog, and the dog's name was Murphy. So I was asking her, "Oh, have you got Irish connections or whatever?" So we were chatting away good old like with the rest of them. And so then she brought up her pad and pencil, and she goes, "So," she said, "you will have something to eat then." And she said, "I can do chicken and chips, and I can do such and such and such and such." And I kind of looked at Paul, and we were kind of thinking chicken and chips would be lovely, wouldn't it? Be lovely?
It was this. Jer was just being too polite. He said, "Oh no, it's too much trouble. Don't. Oh, we're fine." And I'm going, "Yeah, 4 chicken and chips."
Brilliant.
So
You get chicken and chips. You did.
Oh, we did, yeah.
We got a massive plate of chicken and chips, 3 massive big pots of coffee, and chatted away with them throughout. So I just said to the guys, "Right, were we done? We better get going and let this lady go home. We've kept her long enough." So I went up with a credit card bank card to pay, and I just said to her, I said, "Is card okay, or do you prefer cash?" I said, we can do cash as well. And she goes, "Oh, no, you're good." So I'm thinking, all right, so I'm good for the card. So I said, "That's great." I said, "So I can pay you with the card." She goes, No, you're good. And I'm kind of thinking, "Yeah, what?" And she goes, "No, there's no charge." She said, "We like the Irish. There's no charge. It's all free." She had looked up the weather and told us it was going to be really cold that night, and that she lived in Coalmont, and if we made it to Coalmont, she could put us up for the night.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm kind of thinking, "Oh my God, that sounds lovely, but we need to go further than Coalmont." So
Yeah.
we finally offered the bed, and we kept going. But yeah, we did have to go through Coalmont and pick up a checkpoint just at the other side of it. So no, that was terrific that she wouldn't even charge us. And we kept her several hours after, and she had to mess up our kitchen and everything, and then go clean it all again.
I know,
so yeah, that was terrific.
It's crazy. It's amazing the amount the people that you meet in these races and how well they look after you, and it is amazing. It's brilliant.
There was a nice moment there in the previous place, the Boston Bar. We rocked up, and basically after the chat with the guy, ordered everything on the menu, over ordered because we hadn't eaten proper food in days. But there were 2 racers, half a team, sitting down behind us, just having eaten their meal. And so we ordered everything, and then we're waiting around, chatting to the guys. And it must have been the look on our faces, and they just looked at us and go, "Do you want our leftovers?" And we said, "Yes, please." So we had all their leftovers because we were starving. And then they headed off, and then our food came, and we had everything we could. And as we're sitting there, another team came in, a Finnish team came in, and they ordered chips because that's all the guy was able to do at that stage. And we're just chatting, and they were looking at our leftovers. And they said, "Can we eat your leftovers?" And we said, "Absolutely." They asked. The first team offered us their leftovers. The second team just said, "Listen, you can then try having slightly congealed, cheesy gravy fries, whatever the local delicacy was." And they just said, "Can we have your leftovers, guys?" And off they went.
Brilliant. I mean, that they're the stories, like, aren't they? They're what make it, the funny bits and pieces. I suppose as the race progressed, we were watching it. We were watching you getting closer to the finish line. In general, obviously, how were you all feeling towards the end of the race? You were getting well fed in parts of it, obviously. That was good, whether leftovers or not. How are you feeling progressing, like, towards the end of the race and the last couple of nights? How was team morale, I suppose, going for all of you? Richard?
Yeah, I think we could see that we were getting closer and closer to the end line. Like, we've gone through another section and another section. So I think we were feeling pretty positive still, and we were still all in good form, I think. Throughout. Yeah. Sorry, Richard, you throw in there on that.
Yeah, look, people are getting tired. You're 3-4 days into a race. Sometimes little words can be said that aren't meant, I suppose, in the whole scheme of things. And there is like it's not always a bed of roses out there adventure racing, if we be honest about it. There's moments when little things are going to annoy you, but we're all grown up enough between us to say, yeah, look, Richard's having a bad day there, he's just having a moment, just let him be, and 10 minutes later he'd be okay, and next minute it could be Dennis or Ger having that moment. But there's enough maturity between the group to say, yeah, look, it'll be over in a few minutes, we move on and we keep working. I think that's a fair thing to say. If I turn around and say, yeah, we were laughing 24/7 for 7.5 days, I'd be telling you a lie. But no, that's the reality of it out there. And if you're bushwhacking for 7 hours and you cover 3K, it's taking its toll, and that's not a reflection of the navigator. That's just the bloody terrain and the way it was. And Paul and Jared doing a good job getting us through all that. So I think that reflects on how mature the team is and how we're growing up enough to able to identify little icks in each other, and yeah, that'll pass and we keep going. There's no need for a big stand-up argument or anything like that. I think that's a compliment to the team. Maybe others on the team can say you're wrong, Richard. I'm open to it, but I think we've done well, to put up with each other and motivate each other and keep us going.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's so important to look after each other as a team, and if somebody says something, that it doesn't get blown out of proportion when there's no need for it. Yeah, it's cool, and it is true. It's not a bed of roses. You stub your toe or you fall off your bike or whatever. They're hard, but it's what you gain at the other side, and it is those funny moments that you have and the laugh while you're out there that keep you ticking. And I think it's amazing. Everyone needs a bit of quiet time. Everybody, you have your talkers in the team, or everyone plays their own role, and you that's the nice thing about it, that in the team that you slot in and that's your role, or whether it's talking or blah blah blah, doing the nav or whatever, packing up, making sure everyone has their gear together, or helping somebody get their gear together. So yeah, it's not a bed of roses, but it's the working through it, and that's what it's about. It's about teamwork.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know. I suppose if we do round table here, kind of short. So a word or a play. Are you hiding on us there, Dennis?
Sorry, no, I was pulling up the schematic to
All
remind myself
right.
and I blocked the camera.
Sorry, I thought that was it. Lights out. I suppose if we just take a look at the race as a whole, what a high and low was for each of you. Obviously, if we can condense it a little bit as we go through the four of you, but obviously to get your experience in would be great. So I suppose, Dennis, if we go that way again, as I'm looking at you on the screen here,
Yeah.
what was a high or a low for you, or both? What was your high and low out there?
I'm going to put the two of them together. So Paul mentioned the nav was fairly straightforward, but after on the I forget which hike it was, the middle hike, we climbed
Big
steadily.
hike.
Sorry,
The big hike.
no, the one before the one. Yes, it was. Yeah. The big hike. Yeah, 62. That just turned out to be bonkers in scale. Like the first several hours were just straight up fire roads, and then suddenly took a right hand turn, and there was just a bushwhack for 2.5 k that took several hours on a single bearing to get to the top of a ridge or the start of a ridge. And to be fair to Paul, he nailed it just as darkness fell. But that scramble upwards, I'm a former rock climber, and the scramble upwards was kind of on the edge of what you'd like to be doing without ropes in dense forest, covered with moss on a single bearing. So that was kind of like pretty out there, I would say. And we've all done a lot of stuff. And then at the very top, we got to the top of a ridge, found the marker, well done, Paul. But then you're soaking wet because you've been in moss covered terrain for hours and hours and hours. You're soaking wet. All your gear has given up. It's not nothing except oilskins will last that. And suddenly the nav across the top of that was both scary and sort of felt a privilege to be there. The rock climbing was on the edge in wet conditions. It was another hour before we got to the top and found the speaking tent. There was a marshal. We got to the top of the ridge, and there was a marshal there who seemed to have been left there for days. And I just got into the tent, and we were looking around for something, and all we could see was a tent. And we shook the tent for a while until it started to speak, and then it spoke and said, basically, its purpose was to say to go down about a half an hour, follow down the ridge, and that's where the ropes would be. And your man was not leaving his tent. So we nabbed then down as a team in the dark, in the rain, soaking wet, in rough conditions. If anything had gone wrong, we were exposed, no matter what gear we had carried. So an out there moment. Then we got on the ropes. The ropes in the dark. We've all done a lot of abseiling. The ropes in the dark were interesting, to put it mildly. I think we were the last team to go down the ropes because they were just borderline what was safe in everything was so wet, and it was a 100-meter ab. Nothing exceptional in daytime, in night in the conditions. And then we got into the tent. Does anybody want to take on? We were soaking wet. There was no way any team was leading that transition. Or not a transition, the bottom of the ropes. There was just no way of it was dark, there was mist, we were soaked, we were fecked. And there was a 3-man tarpaulin pegged on slopey ground at the bottom of the ropes. and we crawled into that, 4 of us on top of each other, and basically got into our bags and tried to strip off because we were soaked, and put all our wet gear outside the bag and put on whatever wet gear we had inside the bag. And that worked well for about half an hour. An hour, we're just sort of like 4 people in a 3-man space on a slope with your wet gear around your ear somewhere. And that was fine till the German team turned up. And literally, but like you can't see.
I think they were Swiss with it. It was a Swiss team, was it?
Was it Swiss? Yeah. You know the song where
the mixed team was
it? And one said Paul was at the edge, and when 3 Swiss people landed on top of us, we all got in. They were at the edge of endurance. They needed to get in. At one stage, the guy beside me, whom I hadn't met, hadn't been formally introduced, put it that way, he said, I can't feel my feet. And I said, my feet are grand, even though I think they were outside the tent. I said, stick them up on mine, see will that warm them. So he did. That meant that I couldn't. I had to turn sideways because my feet needed to be sideways to take the weight of his, and the only place to rest my head was on his shoulder. And I said, "Is that you?" And he said, "It's all dark." I said, "Is that you?" And he said, "Yes, it's okay." So, so we slept after a fashion, but the other teams were in a cave. Other teams were in a cave with water dripping down that night. Other teams were in a tarpaulin at the top. It was interesting, but we all survived.
So what are you trying to say, Dennis? That you were lucky to be with your team and the Swiss team
Yes,
together.
Yeah. It wasn't exactly body heat, but,
except for anytime anyone moved or rolled over, I was rolling out of the tent at the bottom.
I know, yeah.
Every couple of hours, I'd wake up and I'd be outside the tent and it was raining, and I'd go, guys, I'm outside again. Can you move over and let me in?
Yeah, it was literally, and then the only way to get out of that situation in adventure racing, full adventure racing style, is you have to protect your dry gear. So you have to take your dry gear off, wrap it back up again, put it into your rucksack, and put it back on the wet gear and try and dry it out by moving. Because otherwise you've got two sets of wet gear and you're in trouble if it happens again. So we all did that. Not as bad as it sounds, but we all got going again. But to put on the soaking wet gear, literally wringing out socks that were like you just washed them and putting them on, and shorts and everything. But it worked. It worked.
Yep.
And then another long nav section to get back up on top of the ridge, which was fabulous. So that's the short version. Sorry.
So that's
both
your high and your low.
Yeah. It was a privilege to be there and get through it.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it was on the edge.
Okay.
I
Richard,
think I'd have to agree with that actually as well. Yeah. Like that day, that was a long day, even up through the forest, and it started off quite a nice day. We slept in the transition the night before. Our plan was kind of to get up at first light and go. We were probably an hour or two over that. Again, we actually got going and had food and stuff, but we were off early. We spent the whole day pretty much trekking through this forest, and it was beautiful actually, really, really nice. And you were kind of up at a decent height, like as well. You'd look around, there was rivers, there's trees, valleys. It was pretty cool. And then you came to the end of the path, and it was just like there was I think there might have been a checkpoint just at the bottom.
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
the forest. And like as Dan says, like it certainly, I think, quite possibly one of the best nav I've ever done. No paths, no, like you're bashing through forest, you're over trees, under trees. Took a bearing at the bottom and just stuck to it and just kept watching the compass the whole way. And as Dennis said, you would drown because you're shaking trees. The trees are raining on you. It's raining. You're crawling on the ground. You're crawling under trees. You're climbing over trees. But literally, we popped out at the top of the ridge. It probably wasn't as bad as the second hike or bushwhacking stage. We actually probably made decent enough progress. But again, it was only 2.5 hours or 2.5 kilometers. And it probably took us maybe 3 or 4 hours to get through it, like, you know. Very, very slow moving, like, you know. And literally popped out at the top, and it was just like, oh my God, there's the marker right in front of me. I'm like going, this is a miracle, like, like, you know, like you're going, and like, at first actually it was getting dark, and I knew looking at the time it was going to get dark. And I said to the guys, like we're all pretty shattered. Like it was tough work. Like as Dennis says, you're climbing, you're scrambling on rocks, you're climbing over trees, under trees, bashing through sort of hedges and trees, and it was really tough going. Like, and you know, probably I'd say maybe about half an hour before it got dark, I turned to the guys at one stage, and we really slowed down at this stage. I said, look, lads, it's going to get dark in about an hour. Like, really need to push it here. Like I said, like, if we don't get out of this forest by dark, we could be in real trouble, like, and in fairness, we just got out just as it was getting dark. I could see the flag literally, I'd say you kind of came through the tree, and it was there just maybe 5 meters, 10 meters in front, and I was like, wow, fucking hell, I can't believe we found this, like, and we were down, and then the mist is down, it's raining, we're up at quite a height on an open ridge. It's getting quite cold, and there were some markers along the way. They were fairly well spaced out, like, so you're kind of searching with your head torch, and they weren't always that easy. But like, even we worked really, really well as a team. Like, so we'd go ahead, we'd find sort of the next marker, somebody'd stay there, and the rest of the team would kind of go forward looking for the next one. And like, sometimes like you had to go a fair distance. In the day, you probably would have spotted them off in the distance, no problem. If there was no mist, you'd have spotted, probably no problem. But like, sometimes you had to go quite a distance before you found the next marker, so we kind of almost leapfrogged like that, like, so there was always somebody at the last marker that we'd found, which meant, like, even if we didn't find the next one, we could always go back, come back to where we knew there was a marker and go again, whether that was you looking at the bear and going, oh, maybe it's a bit over here, or maybe it's but yeah, that was some serious teamwork, like, even in getting to the rope section then, and even just pushing through that forest. It's getting dark, and I'm going, we need to get out of this forest before, like, the light is gone completely, like, because even we came out of it in the dark, I'm not even so sure that I'd have spotted, like, okay, there's the ridge, there's the flag, like,
but, so that's your high and low as well.
Yeah, well, that, like, it was pretty miserable. Even, like, we went to the ropes, and I put on, my harness and all the gear, and everything, and I'm trying to tighten my harness, and like, my hands were just so cold, and I'm kind of when I get over to your man, like, I'll ask him, can he give me a hand, like, and of course I get over it, and you have to kind of go along this kind of like Via Ferrata along this ridge, and you're clipping on, clipping off, clipping on, clipping off as you went. And sure, by the time I got to your man that's sort of checking the ropes and stuff, I'd completely forgotten about my harness, which is nearly hanging around my fucking knees at this stage. I set up, like, my Bursec and everything, and I'm pretty much ready to go. My belay device ready, and your man goes, oh, your harness. And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, I meant that. Yeah, I can't tighten it. Can you give me a hand? Like,
Jesus. Oh my God.
So it was good. But we were there, and it was huge abseil, but it pity we couldn't do it in the light. Like, the next morning you looked up and you're like, wow, that would have been amazing. Like, it's different when in the dark. It is like, it is cool in some ways. You're kind of going, oh wow, it's kind of cool to be doing this at dark, but then you're kind of going, you don't really see. Sometimes that's good, I suppose, like, when you go down 100, 110 meters, like, it's can be scary if you can see the bottom, I suppose. But and then the tent, that was
that obviously sounded
that was cozy.
I suppose that's a feature of adventure racing. There's cool bits and boring bits, and you never know which bit you're going to hit at the dark, so it's a matter of luck.
Yeah, it is.
You could be lucky or unlucky.
Yeah,
it would have been cool to do that in daylight and in the dry, but
yeah, for sure. Richard, give us your high and low.
I start off with the low. I touched on it earlier on. There was getting out of that lake.
Yeah.
I can tell that was definitely low, and I took a few stern words from Dennis to man up and get going again, like, which that's what the team is there for. I'm going to do a middle part as well. One of the nicest moments was on the last cycle back in to the finish line. We took the second nap, and we got up, and dawn was just starting to come in, and we're cycling along the lakes, and you could see the mist and all rising off the lakes and the day opening up. It was just beautiful. I was on the way back in, and you had that sense of, yeah, we're nearly there, lads. We nearly have this nailed. And the day was just so beautiful. It was. The highest moment was crossing that finish line with the team. Things didn't work out 100% for me in Croatia, so I had a bit to prove. But the sense of achievement, and I'm so proud that the team pulled me through and kept me going. And I was so lucky to be with such great people. And I think that is the core element of adventure racing. There's 4 people come together that don't really know each other, but still they're working for the one goal and they want to get that finish line. And that's what we've done. And I hit that finish line. I just stood back for a moment. Everybody's celebrating, jumping around, and I just had a moment to myself, and I said, I'm a lucky man to be with these people in this beautiful country. And thanks, lads. That's what I say to you. So that's the story for me anyway,
Oh, that's lovely, Richard.
Thanks,
And
Richard.
I think we all feel like that as part of a team, because we can't do it on our own, and as part of a team we bring each other together across the line, no matter what. We can't go on our own. What's that saying? If you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
Ger, what was your high and low?
The high, I think, was getting out of the second bushwhacking, the 3.5K, very nasty bushwhack, to bring us down to the road. And it was like felt like we were in there forever. You were making a little bit of progress, and then you had to start stepping back. And I think we met East-West team in there. We're stuck in the river at one stage. I think we met another team in there as well at some stage. But I'd kind of had taken a check on the clock when we started, and so I had another look again once we got out of that, and that took us 6 hours to do 3.5K. And we were kind of reckoning, well, yeah, maybe 1 kilometer an hour, maybe 3 hours here, we'd probably be okay. And it was like every few minutes, it was like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? Are we ever going to get out of this? Fair play to Paul. He just kept bringing it back up into a clear space, making more headway. And then you'd get into a sticky situation again. You just knew where to go and how to get around it. So fair play. But at the end of the race, actually, the Swedish Armed Forces were around the finish line shortly after we finished. So I think Paul asked them, how did you manage to get through that bushwhacking? Like, had you some magic formula to get through those? And the guy turned around and said to him, oh my God, he said, that was dreadful. He said, it took us 7 hours. We were kind of thinking, oh, we don't feel so bad anymore.
Oh my God, you beat them.
We
managed to get through it easier than...
Yeah, like they just happened to be around at the end. They certainly didn't come out to see us. They just happened to be around to finish when we finished. And we were sitting there just having some food and whatever. And lovely guys. Like I met them before at other races. Like, and again, like they're finished 3-4 days ahead of us. But so nice, and so open to talking to anyone, so I was kind of going, geez, I wonder how they got on that section. Like, is there some secret to this bushwhacking crack? Maybe I can learn something from them. And it was really interesting to see that they had such an equally awful fucking time there. You're kind of going, okay, yeah, so 6-7 hours. That's okay. That's the standard. So
it worked out well.
Yeah, it was, as Jerry said, and it probably took nearly 2 or 3 hours to figure it out. But you just kind of kept coming up against obstacles. Like, there's a river one side, and you're in this really, really thick forest alongside the river. And you could go up higher. Now, obviously, you wanted to go down the valley, so you don't want to be going up too high. But it was a lot clearer up high, so you could kind of make ground a bit. And once you were heading the right sort of trajectory, like on the right bearing, you would eventually end up down the bottom of the valley. Or this is my thoughts anyway, but it did take me 3 hours to figure this out. Like, the only thing was then, like, we did get to the end, and it was really, really steep. So it was very, very slow moving the last, few kilometers. And you were hanging out of trees, and sometimes you were hanging out of a tree, you weren't even sure, is this going to hold me or not? Like, but we got down, and at first, again, like, I think the nav was pretty good in the end. Like, we hit the bridge, pretty much spot on. We came out on the road, and I was like, "Oh, is that the bridge? Is that a bridge there? Oh, there's a bridge. Fantastic!" But yeah, that was long. Like, they had 2 sections, and in the briefing, they kind of make it sound like the first one was the worst. So I kind of thought, okay, well, that last one took us 3 or 4 hours, so shouldn't be too bad for this. Okay, it's a bit longer, but yeah. And it started so nice, like, you were kind of going down along this stream, and there was a lot of rock, and then you got into the forest, and even at that, it was still wide enough. So probably the first almost kilometer of it, actually, you moved quite well, or certainly the first 500, 800 meters, like, you moved really, really well, and then you hit into the real deep stuff. Just so slow moving.
Yeah, it's tough, like, especially the old bushwhacking. Like, it's hard in the body, and like, if you're on terrain, as you were saying, Dennis, where you're near climb, you nearly want ropes. Like, that's mentally and physically tough, like, and if you're swinging out a tree's pole, that's tough. That's tough work, like.
True. I have no idea what rescue would look like if you twisted an ankle in that place, because it literally would be half a day before they got in with a flask of soup, It was quite unreal. I've never had bushwhacking like it. It was quite unreal.
And even you could go in the river, but the river, you'd be traveling along in the river, and it'd be maybe knee deep, maybe even less, and then all of a sudden it just drops off a cliff, like, and you're going, okay, well, we're not going down there. Back into the forest with us, like, I lost a pole, ripped my pants, lost my dignity.
I suppose
none of which has shown up yet.
I suppose, just to try and wrap it up, in terms, like, I suppose we're all going to get the question after this. Did you meet a bear?
Yes.
We actually seen 4 or 5 bears.
4, I think.
Yeah.
4, yeah. They were close enough, but not close enough to eat us.
Yeah.
They
were kind of on a lower level to us.
Yeah,
so we were on a kind of an upper road. We followed them in and out of the woods and up a tree. There were the smaller black bears. So thank God there were no grizzlies. We didn't come across any of the grizzlies.
Yeah.
So.
I think they were what I call.
Jer was kind of like, okay, lads, yeah, you've taken your photos. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
I think these bears, Lorraine, were what I nearly call town bears. They'd come in looking in bins. So I think they were they didn't surprise us. Yeah. And they knew the rules.
Okay. Well, that was
anyway,
good.
that was 3 or 4 days in, so there wasn't much fat on us at that stage.
We didn't smell the grill.
Oh, Lord. I don't have anything else. I suppose, on a quick shout, does anyone have anything that I didn't ask that you want to kind of just make point of, or anything like that?
Did we kind of just the whole thing was just epic? It was just unreal. Yeah,
it looked vast. Like it looked like a very vast course.
That was my single. Like, we've all done 4 and 5 day adventure races before. I know Paul has done one before. This is my first World Series, World Championship, and the scale is just, you just got on a lake and kept going for hours. You got on a bike and kept, like, they had prepared us for it and said there'd be 16, 18-hour stages. But just when you face into that and the gear you have to carry, you're carrying 7, 8, 10 kilos, sometimes with a pack raft, which brings it up to about 20 kilos. That changes things.
It
The
does.
scale was immense. And the
Yeah.
remoteness, Paul mentioned the forest. At one stage, we entered a forest in a straight line and went 10 kilometers uphill to a hike, did the hike, and then a 27-kilometer descent on the one road. It was just bonkers. At night, I think there was one turning, and then you just got on. It was just one forest that was 37 kilometers in a straight line, and it's just the bonkerness of it. It's just huge.
Okay, so I can imagine it was awfully vast. So with that, did you come
Not
across
fast.
any?
That's what?
Did you
Fast.
come across any Sasquatch or Bigfoot while you were out there?
Apart from Paul's Bigfoot, no.
Yeah,
That might have to stay a private joke.
Oh, there's more there.
we did meet that local guy. He was a bit nuts. all
Oh,
right.
lads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pre-native,
no.
pre-native.
Something like yeah, pretty native.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Another team, actually, the trains, Jer kind of alluded to
Oh,
it
yeah.
earlier. The trains, they're just like, because, they obviously transport so much by rail. Like, these trains just went on forever. Like,
20
this
minutes.
guy had passed us. We were on bikes, and this guy had probably passed us 10 minutes before, on the road. And we catch up with him at the level cross, and I'm like, oh, there's a man that passed us on the road. Because he'd got kind of this, like, funny little kind of Jeep thing that he was driving. He was kind of going, oh, that's unusual.
Oh my God. Okay, so trains, thankfully no grizzly bears, black bears, and no Bigfoot, but some big humans.
It was incredible experience. Like, just, it's so, like, and I think it's something that with these things, and like, you were in Africa a couple of years ago, and that was long and big, and it's like they just keep trying to push it and push it and push it, like, and everything's getting longer and harder and bigger, like,
Yeah.
and look, I guess it's a world championship, like, so it is there to test you, like, it's not a walk in the park, like, but so, like, I don't think none of us have been to Canada before, but yeah, the mountains, it just so big, and like, as Dennis says, you're just going, the stages were so long, like, you just walking,
25K descent,
biking, the paddles, we knew the paddles were going to be long, and first, actually, we managed the paddles pretty well. Okay, Richard got a bit cold towards the end, but we moved pretty well, like, we passed a couple of scenes on the paddles, we moved at a decent enough pace, like, we weren't too shabby on that, like, and it's probably the one thing we probably worked least on, but the stage is just long.
Yeah, they are. But as you said, they're world champions. That's what it is. They're big, they're long, they're gnarly. But I mean, the biggest thing is you came through, and you finished as a team. So, like, that's massive. It's massive to get to the end of something that big and be complete.
I think there was I think it was 56 or 57 teams started, and I think 9 either didn't finish or didn't finish as a full team. So, even to get through it as a full team, and like the short course that Dennis spoke about there, that was really, like, kind of, now at the time, you have the race director kind of telling you, yeah, you're just kind of going, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then he goes away, and you're going, yeah, that is a bit shit, isn't it? Like, yeah, like we're way ahead of the cutoff, like hours, like half a day, like,
Yeah.
but like they had short. We got in there maybe around lunchtime, and they had short coursed anyone who hadn't gone by 10 or 10 past 10. I think
Yeah.
there was a cutoff. You could only leave between 10 and 10 past 10, and anyone who wasn't out by that time, they just short coursed. Probably more because it made the logistics somewhat easier for them as opposed to the timing, but yeah, look, you just take it and get on with it. But it did come as a complete surprise, because you're trekking along and you're kind of going, you know, like we were in no way under pressure, like, you know, we were taking our time on stages, we were getting through it, like, you know, and we weren't the last team either, you know, there were still a few teams kind of tagging along behind us. But yeah, I mean, look, we probably would have had to short course at some stage later on anyway. So, you know, I suppose it did work out okay in the end, you know.
I suppose in one word before we finish, Paul, one word. What was it to you?
I don't know.
Jeez.
We'll come back to you.
I'm going to say the team, which I know is 2 words, but
no, that's okay. We let you with that one. Richard, for you?
Jeez, you have me emotional. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I find them awful emotional. Yeah. Dennis?
Big.
Yeah. Ger?
Epic.
Yeah.
On
that note, I leave it there. We're nearly 2 hours on, and we could do another 2 hours. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to watch you. It was great to try and get as much coverage as we could. You definitely miss somebody out there with the team that can semi-follow you around and pass on the information. So we did the best we could with what we had to let people know how you were doing here at home, and following it and stuff like that. You were epic to watch. Delighted that you finished as a team. That was brilliant. Ups and downs, and we look forward to the next place that you get off and do. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Cheers.